Okay, so now we're recording. I wanted to record while I was checking in with you guys about your quiz next time. So if you're a distance learner, you are going to get a different video that details what you need to do to submit your quiz. But if you're an in-class learner, you guys need to remember that you have a quiz next time and it will be timed. So I need to get you guys ready for the time restriction on the AP exam, and the only way to do that is to time your quizzes. I'm going to start out with a little bit more time than you need, and over the year shorten it down to give you guys an idea about how quickly you need to move through things. So what that means is that you guys need to come to class next time ready. Like sometimes what a lot of you guys like to do is figure out what you're doing during test time, and that works for a lot of you guys, but it won't work anymore if you have a timed test. You won't have the time to sit there and think about what the problem wants from you. You're gonna have to come in ready, knowing how to answer problems. So just remember that it's timed and the quiz is next time. When you finish your quiz, because not everybody's gonna finish at the same time, I'm just gonna send you up then to get your calculator and your book. So you'll finish your quiz and bring it to me, and then you'll just go straight upstairs to get book and calculator. And I'll remind you of that next time. Are there any questions on that? Okay, let's briefly go over what your quiz will be on. So you will have a section where you have to identify all of these different graphs and whether they are categorical data or quantitative data. So I'm gonna switch. If I go to Canvas, I think that I made two separate videos. Is that true? I think I made one video that was for the graphing cards and one video that was for types of data. You guys need to watch both, because the grouping graph cards, that's where you get all of the information about these different graphs. And that's also where we do the background knowledge that you need for the different types of data. So if you skipped that because you were like, oh, I don't need that, make sure that you go back through on Friday when you're supposed to have this class and study these or watch the video. So you're gonna, part of your quiz is going to be, what is the graph and is it categorical or quantitative? Then you're gonna get one problem like in your packet, and we're gonna do a couple of these on your whiteboard today. You're gonna get one like this where it gives you all of the different categories and you need to identify them as quantitative or categorical. And then lastly, you will have one question that is like this, the homework, time spent on homework that you guys were supposed to practice between last time and today. So 3 questions: identify the graphs, identify whether different categories are quantitative or categorical, and lastly, a question like number 3 in last time's packet. I am going to go over the solutions with you today, and I'm going to post it in today's module so that if you want to go back through and write down my response to these questions, you can. Are there any questions on that? No? So Friday, all you have to do is make sure that you're ready for the quiz. Go to the module each Friday, go there, because I usually post a video checking in with you guys and letting you know what you're supposed to do that day. 9 times out of 10, most of the time, you'll just have the day to work on your problems, ask questions, email me, and study for quizzes if we're gonna have one. Questions on that? Okay, get out your little whiteboard that's in your sheet protector that I gave you. Katie, if you need one, come up and grab it for me. I'll give you one. You're welcome, babe. Yes?
I don't have one.
Did you leave yours here last time?
Yes.
I think you did. Did you leave yours here last time? I even said, don't forget your sheet protector, Sad. Come up and get it. This ain't Amazon Prime. Okay. So if you had me before, you know what to do, and if you haven't had me, I just give you time to answer the questions. I'll count you down, and then everybody holds up their whiteboard at the same time. This is not optional. Everybody does it, and if you don't know the answer, then you just hold up a blank whiteboard. And I don't usually call you out. I'm not going to be like, Tiara, where's your answer at? I might with Tiara, though, because she can handle it. But most of the time I don't. Okay, so do you guys have this packet out now that I'm thinking about it? Because if you watched the solutions video, one of my answers was wrong. Number 8 was supposed to be C, and I think I told you that it was D. So,
It was C, but then you circled
D. Okay. Thank you. I will do that often. I try not to, but it's going to happen all the time. So if you know I'm doing something dumb, just trust yourself and circle the one that you know is right, and then maybe if you guys remember, somebody tell me so that I can fix it. Okay? So we're just going to do a couple of questions like this. So, okay, here's the setup for number 1. How can we help wood surfaces resist weathering, especially when restoring historic wooden buildings? In a study of this question, researchers prepared wooden panels and then exposed them to weather. Here are some of the variables recorded. So the first one is type of wood. Type of wood. So the wood is either yellow, poplar, pine, or cedar. On your whiteboard, you can just write C or Q. Is the type of wood categorical or quantitative? You got about 15. The categories again are cedar, pine, poplar, and yellow. Five. 3, 2. Okay, show me. C, categorical. Okay, next up is type of water repellent. Is it solvent-based or water-based? There's only 2 options there. Is it solvent-based or water-based? Is that a categorical variable or a quantitative variable? You got about 10. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. I'm just waiting because everybody has to hold one up. C, very good. Next up is paint thickness in millimeters. Paint thickness in millimeters. Ten. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. Quantitative. Vincent, ain't no way I can tell what letter that is. Okay, next up is paint color. White, gray, or light blue. Paint color. 10. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. Categorical. Weathering time, this is the last one, weathering time, and they measure that in months. Weathering time measured in months. Ten. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. This is quantitative. Quantitative. You guys feel okay about those ones? Okay, last ones of these. I'm going to put the data on the screen. I'll try to make it as big as I can. And then I'll read you the setup. Okay, so the setup is many people like to ride roller coasters. Amusement parks try to increase attendance by building exciting new coasters. The following table displays data on several roller coasters that were opened in a recent year. So first question is, what individuals does this data set describe? So what are the individuals? If you need a hint, that's the people, thing, or animal you are collecting data on. If you need a hint, it's the people, thing, or animal you're collecting data on. Five. Remember, if you don't know, you just hold up a blank one. 3, 2. Okay, show me. I'm just waiting for everybody to hold one up. Jose, do you need a new marker? Or are you good? Okay. Babe, just hold one up. It's okay if it's blank. Okay, so go ahead and put it down. So I think only a couple of you caught this, and this will be easier if you actually had the paper in front of you, but the thing that you're collecting data on is the roller coasters. The thing that you are collecting data on is the roller coaster. Now, to be A+, you would say roller coasters opened in the recent year, or whatever the phrasing from the book was. Roller coasters that were opened in a recent year. That is your individual. So if you had no idea how to do that, you need to mark in your packet, in your types of data packet, that that's something that you need to study for the quiz next time. Does this make sense? Are you sure? Okay. Next question is, what variables were measured, and are they categorical or quantitative? So what was measured, and are they categorical and or quantitative? So here's what I want you to write on your whiteboard. What is the first variable that they measured? So there's things across the top in bold. What is the first variable that they measured? And actually write out the word. You got about 10. Five. 3, 2. Okay, show me. So this one is type. It's type and it's categorical. Roller coaster is not something that they measured. That's just a way to keep track of which one they gathered data on. So the type is either still or would, and lots of you guys categorized it. Okay, so these next ones we're gonna go fast, like 5 seconds or less, because you just need to write C or Q. So next up is height. Is height C or Q? 10. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. Q, because it's a number. Next up is design. So are you flying or are you sitting down? That's design. You got about 10. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. Categorical. Speed. How fast does it go in miles per hour? Speed. Got about 10. 5, 3, 2. Okay, show me. Quantitative. Last one is duration. How long does it last? You got about 10. 5, 3, 2, 1. Great, quantitative. And then last one of these, describe the individual in the highlighted row. So you are going to describe the roller coaster in the highlighted row. So I'll start it for you. The Prowler is, continue. I'll give you at least a minute. $30 seconds or 45 seconds? Which one? 30. Ten. 5. Okay, show me what you have. It's okay that I probably can't read it. I just want to see that you tried. Okay, don't erase. Let's check in. So the first thing that I want you to make sure is that you have the 5 different categories. So you have to describe 5 different things about this roller coaster. Now I wrote mine out of order just to give you guys an example that you have freedom on how you write this, as long as you make sure that you get all 5 of the categories in your description. So I wrote, the Prowler is a wooden roller coaster that has a height of 102.3, I forgot to write feet, and a speed of 51.2 miles per hour. The duration of the ride is 150 seconds and you sit the whole time. So I'm gonna go through and make sure I have all 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that make sense? Now you can list it out. In the very least, I would say the Prowler is a wooden roller coaster and then you could just write, is 102.3 inches or feet tall. You sit the whole time, it goes 51 miles an hour and lasts for 150 seconds. Or you could simply just list them all out. As long as you're hitting all 5, you're good. Are there any questions on this guy? You're sure? Okay, so make sure that you note or highlight or write on your note packet anything that you think that you're going to need to study for the quiz when I see you on Tuesday, because you're going to get a question just like that. So if you didn't know what the individuals were, make sure that you note that. Okay, so then next up, let's go over our evaluating a claim from last time. So we were able to get through number 1, the Ford Focus that's for sale, true? And then you were supposed to try 2 and 3? Is that correct? Okay. So I'm going to go over 2 pretty in depth. If you need to change your answer in any way, make sure that you do that. Make sure that you erase and fix. And then the next problem I'm going to go through a little more quickly, hoping that if you need to copy it down or change your answer, you'll look up the solution that I upload today for today's module. So I'll just read the setup and then I will fill in all of the information. So if yours is done, you're just following along as best you can. So the University of Utah published a fact sheet stating that Utah has the largest average household size in the nation at 3.19 persons per household. So what that means is on average, 3 people live in every house in Utah. Now, obviously, there's more. If you think about your family, you're at least 3. Well, in most cases, you're at least 3. This is true. I actually looked this up, and the U of U did publish this, that our household size in Utah is the largest, and it's 3.19. A sample of 50 households was taken, so hallelujah that we don't have to count up all those dots. And the dot plot below displays the results. Do you believe the U of U's claim? So one thing that we want to want to be careful about is that we specifically address that. They want us to answer this as, do we believe the claim? Do we believe the U of U's claim? Okay, so what is their claim? Utah's household size is 3.19. So the claim is that Utah's household size is 3.19. Okay, next up, we start with based on the dot plot. The next thing that we do is start with based on the dot plot. So, based on the dot plot, I believe the U of U's claim. Based on the dot plot, I believe the U of U's claim. And I'm highlighting these 2 things in the same color because I want to verify that I addressed what I needed to. So do I believe? I specifically answered that. I believe the U of U's claim. I shouldn't have put a period there because the next thing that I need to write is because, and then I have to give the fraction or the percent from the dot plot that makes me decide if I believe it or not. So in order to figure that out, I mark where I think 3.19 would be. I'm not really sure, but I know it's after these dots that are at 3. And then you either count up the dots to the left or to the right. I counted up the left because there was less, which means that 33 out of 50 of the sampled households had a size greater than 3.19. So I say based on the dot plot, I do believe or I don't believe, because, and then you give the information from the dot plot. So the last thing that it asks us to say is make a statement on whether the claim is plausible. So I want you to, I'm going to highlight that and make sure that I know. When it says, is it plausible or not plausible, they are specifically referring to the claim. And that's why I have you guys identify it before you write your response. So your last sentence where you decide, is it plausible or not plausible, you are referring specifically to the claim. So how we address that is, it is plausible. It is plausible that Utah's household size is 3.19. And then I'm going to highlight the information that matches. So right here, I said that this refers to the claim. This is the claim. I am specifically writing the claim in my response. So these 3 blue sentences that, or sections that I have highlighted, go together. That's why I've put them all in the same color. Are you guys okay on this? Yes, Mia.
So if it says it's the union's claim is that the household size is 6.19, and the majority of them are more than 6.19, then why?
So Mia is asking if the claim is that Utah's household size is 3.19, and we are looking at all of the dots that are bigger than that. Why are we agreeing with the claim? Because the claim is that it is 3.19, but then we go in and look at our dots and we look at all of the dots that are bigger than that. I'm understanding your question, right? Okay, so here's why, and this is something that we haven't talked about in stats yet. So when we're looking at a sample, because what we did here in this problem is we went and sampled 50 homes in Utah. True story? Do we expect that every single house is going to have 3.19 people? Hopefully not, because that's not even possible. It's not possible to have 0.19 people. The reason why is because every household size, well, I shouldn't say every, but lots of household sizes are different. My household size is 2, but your household size might be 7, and your person sitting next to you's household size might be 4. And that's okay. That is what is called variability. When you take data, it is most likely the case that each sample that you take is going to be different. So that's why when we evaluate this claim, we look at all of the ones that might be bigger, because that 3.19 is an average household size. So they're saying if we take everybody's household size and we average it, it'll end up being around 3.19 because everybody's household size will be different, but it'll even out to about right there. So we look at least the same size or bigger, and we're just verifying how many houses that we get that at least have 3.19 or bigger. And it's just the convention in stats that you look at the ones that are bigger. You always go from the claimed value up, and that's just because that's the method that is best for evaluating the claim. Does that help, Mia?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Do you guys have any questions related to that or any questions at all? Okay, so typically like this guy, we're saying this owner is claiming that a Ford Focus gets 41 miles per gallon, but then we go and sample 160 Ford Focuses and look at how many different sample results that we got, you know. So when we take samples, a lot of the time our measurement is going to be different. So that's why we look at a range of values instead of just the dots that are 3.19 or 41. I'm going to let that settle for just a minute. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay. So next up is the problem about the homework, and this is this is a problem based off of real world experience. So I did my highlighter colors different, hoping that when you guys look this up, if you need to, it'll be clearer what information goes with what. So Miss Sylvester, she used to teach AP Geo over at the Brockbank campus and regular Geo, and I think she taught Gov. Last year was her last year here, and she moved over to Matheson to become an instructional coach there. So we were talking about how things were going for her, and she was like, well, we've been in a lot of meetings. It was a couple of weeks before school started. And she's like, today we had to discuss whether or not we're gonna let the kids take their Chromebooks home, whether we're gonna let them check out Chromebooks. So a lot of the teachers at the junior high wanted to make their kids come to advisory every single day, pick up their Chromebook, and then the last 10 minutes of school, go back to their advisory and check it back in. I don't even know why. So I'm like, well, how are they gonna do their homework? Like, if they have to do stuff at home, are they just assuming that all these guys have a device at home? She says that the junior high teachers that were there don't give out homework because the kids don't do it. So there's like a blanket understanding at Matheson that hardly any of the teachers give homework because they don't expect that their kids are going to do the homework. And I was like, what? So do you know how we, like, maybe you don't, but all of our schools are supposed to have these mission statements, right? And part of ours is up here. We have this little circle that says, attend, engage, and grow. And all of our school goals are supposed to be based around those goals. So one of the goals at Matheson is that they are trying to prepare their students for career, whatever. What is that saying that the Career Center uses?
College and career readiness.
College and career readiness. So they are trying to help the kids with college and career readiness and to be prepared to come to high school. So Miss Sylvester says, don't you think that checking out the Chromebooks and having them do homework is preparing them for that? And one of the teachers says, they can figure that out in 9th grade. We're not doing that this year. And I was shooketh because that is insane to me. So that's where this problem came from. So in preparation for the new school year, teachers at Lloyd Junior High are trying to decide if they should let students check out a Chromebook for the school year or if they should have students pick up and return the same Chromebook from their homeroom every day. Mr. Workman proposes that the students be able to check out their Chromebook because they will need it for homework. In response, several teachers claim that their students don't do homework, so they do not need to check out a Chromebook. Mr. Workman knew that some teachers would say this, so he asked some of his students how many hours per week they spent on homework. The dot plot shows the responses. Based on the dot plot, how would you vote? And do you agree with Mr. Workman or the other teachers? So there are two different ways that you can approach this problem. I personally think that there are two different claims in this problem. You only have to address one of these claims. So claim number one is that the students need their Chromebook to do homework. So claim number one is students need their Chromebook to do the homework. Okay, so I have here, based on the dot plot, I would vote for students to check out their Chromebook. So notice that I've highlighted that in pink because that is the first thing that they asked me to address in the prompt. Now, don't worry about having to quickly write all this down because, like I said, I'm going to post a picture of exactly this on Canvas if you want more time to work on it. Okay, next up, I would vote for the students to check out their Chromebook because 24 out of 25 of Mr. Workman's students spend at least 1 hour on homework per week. So the claim is that the students need it for homework, and what we're looking at is how many students actually did homework. So the only kid that didn't is the kid at 0. If you spend 0 time on homework, that means that you didn't do any homework. So then this addresses the claim, and I forgot to highlight it. It is plausible students will need their Chromebook to do homework. So like on the previous page, I said when you end with it is plausible or not plausible, you want to refer back to your claim. And then I end with, so I agree with Mr. Workman. And notice that is highlighted in blue, just like I highlighted it in blue up here on the prompt. The highlighting is not necessary. It is just there for me to help you make the connections between the prompt and what you're expected to write. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, knowing that that's probably not enough time for you to write that all down. Claim 2. Students don't do homework, and that's specifically in the problem. The several teachers claim that their students don't do homework. So claim 2, students don't do homework. Response. Based on the dot plot, I would vote for students to check out their Chromebook because 24 of 25 of Mr. Workman's students do at least 1 hour of homework per week. So now I make the plausible or not plausible based off of the claim. It is not plausible that students don't do homework. So I agree with Mr. Workman. It is not plausible because we asked 25 students and only one of them didn't do any homework in the last week. Is this making a little bit of sense? Are you sure? Yes, Sam.
So what did they do?
I think they checked them out. I don't see how you could get around it. Like, I think the teachers felt like those Chromebooks were their Chromebooks. You know what I'm saying? And they wanted to like keep them nice and make sure that it's like, no. Nope, just let them go. Just let them go. So like I've said a million times, and I could probably just show you, I took a picture of this before you guys came in and emailed it to myself. So this picture right here, who's green Stacy? Teaching. I'm gonna post this picture to Canvas, and you guys can go in and copy down either claim if you want, based on the one that makes the most sense in your brain. Are we okay on this?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, for example, like, what if you had written, like, based on the dot law, it's possible that students need a Chromebook, but you don't necessarily write, like, you agree with Mr. Workman or whatever, would you get points, like, or not get points, I mean?
Yes, so
You have to
you do not have to write it exactly like this, but in my experience, this is the type of learner that I am, so maybe my experience is different than, well, I'm sure it's different than some of yours, but I'm a memorizer, so for me, I would literally just memorize the order in which I wrote this, because then you can guarantee you're hitting all of the points. Now, as long as you hit the different colored things in the response, so I have 3 different colored things, it doesn't matter what order you address it in. You could start with, I agree with Mr. Workman. You don't have to start with based on the dot plot. But up here, this is why I highlighted them in different colors. You do have to say, how would you vote? And you do have to say, I agree with or don't agree with Mr. Workman. Does that help, Maddie?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I was wondering, for response number 2, is it okay if instead of 24 out of 25, I get 1 out of 25?
Yes. So Cirrus is asking, is it okay if on claim 2 she wrote, I would vote for students to check out their Chromebooks because only 1 out of 25 of Mr. Workman's students do not do homework. That's totally fine as well. Yes, Mia.
What if you kind of like combine them together into like one claim? That's kind of what I did at first. Like I kind of said what the first one was, and I said therefore would need to check out his phone because.
I think that would be acceptable. So Mia is saying that her claim is slightly different. It's like a combination of the first one and the second one. I do believe that would be fine as long as whatever claim you chose, that's what you use to make your plausible, not plausible statement. Does that help, Mia? Any other questions? We're okay? Okay, so I know that this part of stats can get tedious, but it is important. And I think in the end, it is beneficial for you guys to go through and see how they want the responses written. I think it makes you a stronger student overall. So I know it's tedious, but you just got to hang in there. We're good? Okay, so we're going to put this lesson to bed now. We're done with lesson 1. Lesson 1 was the different types of data. Lesson 2 is the Parkinson's disease activities. And then lesson 3 is going to be our M&M activity that I introduced to you last time. So I'm pretty sure that I was clear on this, but I may not have been. The only thing that you guys were required to fill out was your count of color in your bag. If you didn't have a chance to do this, you can wait and do it and just use my info. Or you could probably do it right now if you wanted to. So all you had to fill out was your count of colors. That's it. I'm just giving you guys a second to get your note sheet ready. Okay. Ready? Yes, so ready. Okay, the values of a categorical variable are labels for the categories such as male and female. The blank of a categorical variable lists the categories. The frequency table of a categorical variable lists the categories and gives their count or the percent of individuals who fall within each category. If you're talking about percent, it's called a relative frequency table. If you're talking about count, it's just called a regular frequency table. Okay, so we're going to make our first bar chart based off of my bag of M&Ms. So I had 11 orange, 9 red, 5 yellow, 9 green, 16 blue, 8 brown for a total of 58. If you had a peanut or peanut butter, just kidding, if you had a regular bag of M&Ms, did you have close to the number that I have? Did you get 58 on the dot or just close? Okay. 54, you were cheated out of some M&Ms. Okay, so now we're going to take this frequency table and we are going to translate it to the bar chart below. So one thing that's really important that we talked about last time is that you always need to scale and label your axes. So for your y-axis or y-axis in this problem, this is your frequency or your count. They mean the same thing. And you actually do need to label that. And I probably need more space than that because I also have to put numbers in. So I probably wrote mine a little bit too close to the axes. Then when you are deciding how you want to space out your tick marks on the y-axis, you need to go inside the table and look for the largest count. So I'm going to make a note of that right here. I'm going to point to my y-axis and I'm going to say look for largest count in the table. So you want to go inside the table. So since we're all using my data for this first graph, our largest count is 16. So because it's 16, I think that I'm going to scale my y-axis by 2. You don't have to do 2 if you don't want to. You could go by 1s. You could go by 5s. You just need to make sure that you go at least as high as 16. 18 or 20 would be better. So I'm just going to go through and start making my tick marks. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And then you got to label them. So always scale and label. Then across the bottom is the category or the variable that we are interested in. So that is the color of M&M. Or actually, I'm going to use exactly what is in the table. So up in the table, the variable is named as M&M color. So that's what I'm going to use down here. I'm going to use exactly what they named the variable in the table. And now we make the bars. So if you watched my sorting the graphing card video, you know that when you make a bar chart, your bars are not supposed to touch. So your bars don't touch and you want them to be equal width. So our first color is orange. I'm gonna leave a little bit of space. I forgot to label 0. I'm gonna leave a little bit of space here, and then I'm gonna start my first one. So my first one is at 11. So I just go up to 11 and make a little mark. And I'm gonna keep my bars kind of thin so that I can fit them all in. Doesn't need to be perfect by any means. In years past, I had colored pencils on the desks for you guys, so I typically would have colored this in orange. I am going to, though, instead just write in my bar the word orange. You could write down here, you could put like a little tick mark there, and you could write O if you wanted to. You could write out the word orange if you wanted to, although that's going to get really crowded. You have some freedom about how you label your bars. Then we're going to try to leave the same amount of space that we used from the y-axis to the bar, and then we make the next one. So the next one is 9. And that one is red. And I'm just going to proceed for the rest of the table. Do you guys understand what's happening? Yes? Okay, so you have approximately 1.5 to 2 minutes to make your graph. You guys are okay? Is that a yes? Vincent and Caleb, are you done? Did you make it nice? Oh, I don't know. Okay, about another minute. Eh. About 30. Okay. I decided to color mine in because I didn't like writing the words in them. So there's mine. Does yours look similar? In terms of the height of your bars at least? Was that a yes? Okay. So now your relative frequency table is going to be with your data, and above it, I want you to write what kind of M&Ms you had. So I had regular, because we may use this data later in a different chapter, and the type of M&M you had is going to matter. So unless you weren't here or you forgot to do this, your numbers are probably slightly different than my numbers. So relative frequency table is the percent of the bag. So it's called relative frequency because it is the color relative to the whole bag. So for me, for my first one, I'm going to do 11 divided by 58. So if you need your Chromebook, you can use your Chromebook. If you need to use your cell phone, you can have it out for 1 minute, since we didn't check out our calculators yet. So you take your count of orange M&Ms and you divide it by the total amount of M&Ms that you have. And then you look at the third number after the decimal to decide if you're going to round. If it's 5 or above, you give it a shove. 4 or below, let it go. So this is definitely being rounded up to 19% for me. Then the next one is 9 out of 58 for me. I have a 5 this time. So even though that's right on the edge, I'm going to round this up to 16. Are y'all doing this? Some of you guys are not writing anything, which concerns me. Be doing something. If you're lost, ask a neighbor. They will help you. Okay, I think I'm going to need to come out there and look. This is why I don't like to be sitting. I like to be regulating. Like Bone Thugs and Harmony. Do you guys even know who that is? That's a sad day.
So how do we end up doing like this for our bag? Should we put it in the same order as your bag?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, I think I would, but you're not gonna get it wrong if your order is different than my order. Okay, so once again, I'm gonna highlight my y-axis because I'm gonna scale it based off of the biggest percent in my table. So I'm gonna highlight it yellow again, just to remind myself that that's how I decide to scale. So my biggest is 28. So I think I'm gonna go by 5s because I'm gonna try to get all the way up to 30. And then make sure that you label that as relative frequency. Make sure that you label your y-axis with relative frequency. So our left table is a frequency bar chart. Our right-hand table is a relative frequency bar chart. You can do either one. I would do relative frequency, but if you get a problem like this, you can do either one. If you already did it and like colored it in, do not white that out. Just leave it there. And then maybe make a note. I could have used percents. I mean, unless do you want new paper? I would hate for you to white that whole thing out. That made me sad. You could do it on a separate sheet and then tape it over. Okay, and then once again, your y-axis is labeled M&M color, and you go through and do your bar chart again, but this time your y-axis is the relative frequency, the percent, instead of the count. Please bless that you're doing this. Yes. What? Why? Yeah, that one's right. That one's right. Girl. I'm getting 14 on that one. Actually 15. Are you guys doing yours? That one's 18. Yeah, the rest are right. Does that help him?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
You're okay. Do you need like another minute? Yes, no? So this one is up to 19% on mine. If you're doing yours, you can ignore me. This next one is at about 16%. Then I'm dropping down to 9% because that's what's in my table. Back up to 16. Then I gotta go as high as 28. And then 14 is my last one. Then I'm gonna fill mine in. If you're chatting, make sure you're chatting and working or that you're done. Did anybody have the most of a color other than blue? Green. Brown. Sad day on the brown. Okay, so I labeled my bars slightly differently on the frequency chart just to show you that you have a little bit of freedom on how you label. On my key, I actually went through and wrote the word in the bar chart. On my other key, I just wrote the letter, ORYG, BL for blue, BR for brown. So you do have freedom when labeling a bar chart. Are we okay on this one? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next page. If you are finishing up, I would maybe finish up an independent study. And then we only have one other thing today to do. So the other graph that you can do for a categorical variable. So today we're talking about graphs that you can do when you have categorical data. You can do a bar graph and you can do a pie chart. So the table below shows the market share of smartphones as of July 2020. Make a pie chart using the data. This is real data. I found this data. Have you guys ever seen these cell phones? My dad had one of these. It was crazy. Okay, there's two really important things that you need to know about a pie chart. Number one, the categories must make a whole. And the easiest way to check that is to verify that the percents add to 100. So when you make a pie chart, it has to be categories that make up a whole, and easiest way to verify is that they add to 100. So if I go through and add these percents, these would add to 100. So our whole in this example is the U.S. market share. Do you guys know what market share is? So market share is all phones, all smartphones, I should say, on the market, which means being sold. So of all of the phones being sold in the United States right now, 46% are Apple, 25% are Samsung, 12% are LG, 7% Lenovo, and everything else makes up 10% of the market share. So the whole that we're referring to is all phones being sold. You're okay? Okay, I'm gonna find the center of my circle by folding it in half. If you just want to eyeball it, that's fine, but I'm holding mine up to the light and folding it horizontally and then folding it vertically, and where they cross is going to be the center of my pie chart. The other thing that does that makes it really helpful is it cuts your pie into 4 sections of 25. So now I know each one of those parts of my pie chart is 25%. You're okay there? Was that a yes? And then I'm going to go look at my categories. We get lucky because Samsung is exactly 25%. So I'm just going to darken one of those quarters and write Samsung in there. So Samsung is 25% of all phones being sold. Next up is Apple at 46%. So this half here would be 50%. So I'm just going to take a baby chunk out of that. And now this whole left-hand side is Apple. So I knew that halfway was 50. I just take a little chunk out right here, and that would be 46. You can put the percent in the slice if you want. You don't have to. Okay, I think the next easiest one would be LG. It's at 12. That's about half of 25. So I'm going to take this last quarter that I have and split it a little bit less than halfway. So that would be, that very light line that I have would be about halfway. I'm going to go a sliver less than that, and that would be 12%. So that's LG. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just eyeballing it. So what do we have? 46, 25, 12. We need one that's 7. Well, this little sliver was 4. So I'm just going to add a little bit onto that and call it 7. And then that means my last chunk is other. So if the breaking up the pie is stressing you out, don't worry about that so much. Y'all should not be cleaning up. Trust me, I will leave you enough time to clean up. Don't worry about having to make the pie chart. Worry about whether or not you understand the pie chart. Are we okay there? Okay, so your check for understanding, you will finish on Friday. On Friday, get into Canvas and watch all of the videos that are there. Do we all understand? You're sure? Quiz next time? You'll be fine. Great work today.